Thanks, Damien. So this is a tough gig. So Rosie and I were in last night and stayed in, probably in bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I think a few of you were out quite late, so we'll make it nice and lively. I'm going to pick you up, then I'm going to throw you down, and then I'm going to pick you back up again. In terms of timing, those of you that have attended sessions yesterday will see that my very subtle way of keeping everybody on track is to stand with 5 minutes to go over on the side there, and that's my subtle hint at making sure people keep time. That's me managing you. For this session only, you're managing me, so you have my permission to heckle me if I go over time. And I think I've been given 2 hours or something like that for this session. So yeah, we'll make it nice and lively. I'm going to expose myself to you emotionally. What I'm not looking for you to do is to see me as some sort of role model, because I'm really no role model. What I'd hope you'll do is just pick up 1 or 2 things from my story that you think, yeah, maybe we'll have a look at that. I would do it differently, but I would do something in terms of moving forward. Some of you, I know, recognise me from E-BITUG 2023 in Edinburgh, when I did a talk about Ironman. I've been told apparently I have less hair than I did 2 years ago. It's quite possibly true. My story then was about the way I'd been inspired by a friend, a colleague of some of the people around here called Andy, who had lost 4 stone, so 26 kilograms, training for a triathlon, and I'll explain a little bit about what that is in a moment. And I thought, if Andy can do that, I can do that. And for that reason, I took up the sport of triathlon, which took me on a long journey, including Ironman. So an Ironman is a 3-discipline race. It's a swim of 2.4 miles, usually in the sea, but sometimes in lakes and rivers. 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a 26.2-mile marathon, all within 17 hours. And I, having taken inspiration from this guy called Andy, who, like me, completely ordinary, no super athlete, I pushed my way through an Ironman journey and ended up racing in the Ironman World Championships in 2017 in Kona, Hawaii. Completely ordinary bloke. I am no natural athlete in any way, and I pushed my way through to doing that just by keeping moving forward. One of the many things that I learned in that journey is that the support that you both give to people and you take back from people is critical, not just in the sport of Ironman, in any sport, but in life, in work, in your personal life. And I made it a really good objective of mine to give as much as I took in terms of supporting people and inspiring people. So sometimes you choose the journey. In that journey to the Ironman World Championships in Hawaii, I chose myself. I stepped forward, I looked for opportunities, took the next step, and do it. As again, not a natural athlete, but I found ways of doing that. But sometimes journeys choose you. When I did the talk at E-BITUG 2023 in Edinburgh, just a few short weeks before that, I'd been working as a project manager at the University of Leeds. And I was chairing a board meeting. 20 people sat around a board table. And halfway through the meeting, I just looked around the room, and the whole table was shaking. Now, Rosie and some of you will tell you that I think I'm hilarious. And I was going to crack some sort of joke until I looked down at my left leg, and my left leg was leaning against one of the table legs, shaking profusely. So obviously I moved the leg away, the table stopped shaking, we moved on. Rosie's a former nurse, went home, we had a good chat about it. Why would that leg be shaking? So we went through a few things. I'd spent the past couple of years being really quite tired. So I'd developed, not very sensibly, quite an addiction to caffeine. I was doing 10, 12 coffees a day, something like that. So cut down on coffee. I was almost obsessively doing 6, 7, 8 spin classes a week. Cut down on that, maybe I had a trapped nerve, maybe it was that sort of thing. I'm not a particularly stressy type person, but maybe there was a stress, so I did a lot of relaxation and things like that. No solution to the problem there. It still kept trembling. So went to the doctors, went through a number of discussions with GPs in Leeds in the UK. And ultimately, I went to see a consultant. So after about 15 minutes of the consultation, he just looked me in the eye, a few tests, did a few things, walking up and down, tapping the fingers together. He looked at me and said, "You've got Parkinson's." So that was a 30-minute consultation. The last 10 minutes of the consultation, I don't remember. He was talking. I was still there. Rosie tells me I was still there. But it was just a blur. I was painting a picture in my mind from what I knew about Parkinson's, which was very little of where the future was. At the time I was 59. No, I know. But at the time I was 59, and I painted a picture of a 65-year-old Phil who had all of the symptoms that I knew of the little I knew about Parkinson's. So, what is Parkinson's? Well, it's described as being the world's worst buffet. My brain has already lost 60% of its ability to produce dopamine. Now, dopamine manages movement, mood, morale, memory. I'll have to stop cracking that joke one day because I might forget that last bit. But pretty much everything that you do is controlled or facilitated by the neurotransmitter called dopamine that the brain produces. And as you lose the ability to produce that, then you can do fewer things. Broadly, there are over 40 different symptoms. Not everybody gets, nobody gets all of the symptoms, but everybody gets a few, and hence the world's worst buffet. So right now, I'm stage 1, maybe a bit of stage 2, bit of tremor in my left hand, on my left foot, some stiffness, and I'm tired. My sense of taste has gone. For those of you that were at the Jameson's distillery tour, our tour guide was called Jack, and Jack was saying, I'm getting oak, I'm getting cherries, I'm getting beautiful summer's day in the whatever. Me, I'm getting nothing. As you move on to stage 2, then things worsen. By the time you get to stage 3, I've called it there, entering the fun zone. That's where you start to develop life-impacting symptoms with Parkinson's. And then 4 or 5, basically, when I was in the room with the consultant, with Rosie and the consultant, back on the 23rd of August 2023, the picture that I painted of myself was me at stage 5. Almost immediately, because I knew nothing about it. Now, every journey is different. But essentially, if my life was a jigsaw, that's what it was in that room that day. Probably the worst day of my life. But it was all, ironically, in my mind, because we'd not thought it through. So, 2 of the things that I remember the consultant saying to me in those last 10, 15 minutes, most of it was a blur, was the first thing is, how do you feel about drugs? No, not that sort of drugs. How do you feel about medication? And I said, don't want it. Didn't think it through, I don't want it, because it was, to me, it was accepting that I had Parkinson's, and by refusing drugs, it felt that it was just, I can get through this. And the second thing he said to me was, get support. Look for support, find support, and it comes back to my point about Iron Man. At that stage, after having talked it through with Rosie, what support do I need, what can I get, and what can I give back? So we started to develop the concept that actually had been living through my career as an Ironman, is live for today and then never, ever give up. So what I'd like you to do is to think about your challenges. Actually, statistically, I'm not alone in having Parkinson's just by numbers. 1 in 37 people in the UK will be diagnosed with Parkinson's. But have a think about your challenges that you've got, be it medical challenges, personal challenges, work challenges. Look out to see how you can accept help and you can give it back. At the NHS, the British NHS is great. They work really hard, but it's tough. There are 1,500 people with Parkinson's in Leeds, which is where we live. 1,500 people with Parkinson's in Leeds, 4 Parkinson's nurses. So they do their very best, but you need support from elsewhere, and you look for that support. So Parkinson's UK, family, obviously. You look on Facebook. There's a real danger with social media, though, because half of it is really great, and it gives you that advice that you need. The other half, you look at it and you think, oh my God, that's the end of the world. And you just got to, like all social media, you've just got to use your filters to be able to work out what's useful and what's not useful for you. At the bottom there, you'll see Michael J. Fox, who is leading the Michael J. Fox Foundation in America. And he was diagnosed at age 29. Age 29. So I was a 15-year-old. I was a 59-year-old even, a 59-year-old. And you think, do you know what? It could have been loads worse. I could have been diagnosed age 29. And he's fighting on now. I think he's a couple of years older than me. I think he's like 62, 63, something like that. Still fighting on, still pushing the word forward. In the UK, there is a group called the Movers and Shakers, who are former, Jeremy Paxman's one of them. They are former news people, mostly at the BBC, who are trying to drive forward and educate people about Parkinson's and trying to increase the support and trying to work with the government to improve the situation as far as Parkinson's is concerned, because it needs more support. So the local Leeds rugby union team, rugby league team, is called the Leeds Rhinos, and the Leeds Rhinos have got a foundation, Leeds Rhinos Foundation, part of which is there to support Parkinson's people. So every week, every Thursday, there are circuit training sessions for people with Parkinson's in Leeds, and it's fantastic. So on there you'll see a photograph of us using the Leeds Rhinos professional wheelchair rugby team's wheelchairs, just a game of wheelchair rugby, and we do different things every week. Great from an exercise perspective, and I'll talk about exercise in a second. Great from an exercise perspective, but equally talking about what are your symptoms, how does that work, having a laugh about it, talking about drugs, talking about the medication people take, and providing that support, giving and taking the support, which is so important for all of us. I'll come back to exercise. And I'll cover exercise now. There are many, many different approaches to managing Parkinson's symptoms. There is no cure currently for Parkinson's. There is no cure which will make my brain naturally produce its own dopamine. It will keep going downhill and downhill and downhill. There are ways of fighting the symptoms. There are drugs, legitimate drugs, used for fighting the symptoms of Parkinson's. And there are maybe not quite as legitimate drugs. One of the things about going on social media saying, I've got Parkinson's, is you get bombarded with people to say, oh yeah, my granddad had Parkinson's and he took this herb and that herb. And you just, again, have to filter your way through it. The one common approach to managing Parkinson's symptoms is exercise. So wherever you look, they'll say, take these drugs, don't take these drugs, take this medication, take these herbs, exercise. Now, to me, as somebody who loves doing his exercise, that's great news. I've got a friend of mine who, about the same time as my diagnosis, had a heart attack. His instructions were, take it easy, don't overdo it. My instructions was, fill your boots, Phil, because you can't do too much. Do the high-intensity stuff, do the endurance stuff, do swimming, do weight training, all of those things. And that's, from my perspective, absolutely fantastic. So, at this stage, I was starting to draw my own jigsaw of what my life might look like, and using connections, and this is where the analogy really works to work life, personal life, to this conference, to this symposium, is I was just chatting to somebody about, oh yeah, I've heard about this company called Stroll, deliberately with 3 L's, which was set up by an entrepreneur whose dad had Parkinson's, and that was using augmented reality, like virtual reality, augmented reality glasses to create exercises that were specifically made for people with Parkinson's. And the great thing is, it works at multiple levels. So it works at level 1, which is for somebody who potentially is very advanced, potentially wheelchair bound, but can still do loads of those exercises, because however progressed you are in your Parkinson's, exercise is always there. It's always absolutely vital. And it works us all the way up to level 5 for these instructions. So I did an 8-week trial. I volunteered for an 8-week trial to do these. And I did this trial summer 2024. And at the end of the trial, they said to me, have you got any feedback? Now, having come from the similar industry that you're all working in now, retired now, but the similar industry that you're all working in now, I did more than feedback. I did a full 20-page report. Everything, user experience, and it's techie stuff. The number of times you had to turn it off and turn it on again was unbelievable. All of that sort of stuff. And I kept saying to them, you need to have a think about, put yourself in the position of somebody with Parkinson's who's not a techie. All of that sort of stuff. And then I talked about pricing, and I talked about marketing, and I talked about approach, and I talked about how they sell it to the NHS. And as a result of me just waffling on about it in this 20-page report, they came to me and said, will you join our steering committee? So I now sit on the NHS steering committee for the adoption of Stroll into the NHS for use by the Parkinson's nurses and for the Parkinson's physios. Fantastic, because from my perspective, I'm giving, bringing my experience of 35 years of industry experience, and I'm helping from that perspective. But it's great for me because it's keeping my skills going, it's learning new things, it's working in the NHS, which I'd never done before. So all good new stuff, which is all creating a replacement for the dopamine which is no longer or working less in my brain. I'm challenging it to still do things, to use my brain, to use my, even speaking, because speaking does get impacted as you move forward. So all of those things, it's helping me keep that moving forward. And it was allowing me to stay relevant, so great from a morale perspective. The other thing that Stroll asked me to do is they asked me to become their social media influencer, which is hilarious. To be honest, I'm 61 years old. I'm no social media influencer, for goodness sake. But I am. So I don't think Vanessa's here. So Vanessa's talk yesterday was, hopefully a load of you saw it because it was absolutely fantastic. Vanessa is a social media influencer. If you look at her Instagram, she's got 17,000 followers on Instagram. I've got 132. That's 132 followers, not 132,000 followers. I've got 132 followers. But who's counting? And again, all new stuff, all new skills, learning how to do that. Our son works in social media, always telling me, Dad, you don't do it like that, you don't do it like that. All great new skills, which is all good for the brain, and again, working ways round the reducing dopamine. So if my life was a jigsaw, it was starting to come together. What I was doing, I was using every opportunity to talk to somebody. How does that work? Can I do that? Let me do that. And then following on, using the exercise, using the network, all of those things. All of these things that apply not just to me, but to any journey, be it a medical journey, be it a personal journey or a work journey. Just keep moving forward, keep grabbing the opportunities and keep looking for them. Now, exercise, again. So as I talked earlier, when I was inspired by Andy at work this was 2010, 2011, my very first Ironman race was Ironman Wales 2011. And it was a really rough day, massive waves, really windy. This is the back end of Hurricane Irene in September 2011, 55-mile-hour winds on the bike. But I got through it, and I was really proud to have got through it. So 3 weeks after my diagnosis, so August the 23rd, 2023, the entries for 2024's Ironman Wales came out, and I thought, sod it, I'm going to show them. I'm going to do, despite the fact that I've got Parkinson's, I'm going to do Ironman Wales. So I entered Ironman Wales 2024. Unfortunately, shortly after that, we realised I needed a knee replacement, so I had a knee replacement, and that threw away any opportunity I had of training for Ironman Wales 2024. So I deferred my place to 2025. Now, the thing about Ironman, they're a really tough commercial organisation. They've got rules, and even if I wrote to them and say, I've got Parkinson's, can I have my money back? Nope. You entered, you deferred, you can't get your money back after that. So I've now automatically entered Ironman Wales 2025. Am I going to finish? Not a chance. Am I going to get to the marathon stage of it? Not a chance. Am I even going to get through the 112-mile bike through the mountains and the hills of Pembrokeshire? Almost no chance. Am I going to be on the start line? Absolutely I am. And if that means I get on the start line, do the swim, obviously failing to do the swim is quite embarrassing because they haul you up onto a boat and then they bring you back in. And so I really want to be able to get through that. But if my success is not going to be getting that medal, that 13th Ironman medal, it's actually going to be just being on the beach and getting through that swim. And I've adjusted my objectives because I have to, but it's keeping me motivated. And to be perfectly honest, if I'm just standing on the start line and decide not to go for it, I will still have been motivated throughout this year to keep swimming, keep training, keep doing my exercise, keep doing the stroll stuff, and keep moving forward. And keep my networks going for all the people I'm encouraging and are encouraging me with Ironman and triathlon training. So what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? I stand there and I think, I can't do this. Well, I'll go back. Rosie will be in the apartment. We'll have a coffee together and we'll go and cheer everybody the rest of the day. That'll do for me. Just to keep moving forward. Another link that I had, so through the Leeds Rhinos Foundation, somebody said, I'm starting up something called Parky Ping, which is ping pong or table tennis for people with Parkinson's. So I'm thinking, yeah, I like that. I haven't played table tennis for about 40 years, but I'll give it a go. So I now go to a weekly table tennis club, some people with Parkinson's, some without Parkinson's. It's absolutely fantastic. So if you think that dopamine is related to many things, including reaction time, including hand-eye coordination, including even bending down to pick a ball up, which is quite a challenge for some of us. And by playing table tennis, it's allowing me to keep driving forward and keep motivating and keep moving forward, and to challenge the fact that dopamine is no longer helping me or is reducing the amount it helps me play table tennis, but I'm trying to get around that. I'm pushing around that. Now, I may have mentioned this to some of you several times if I get given half the opportunity, but I raced in the Ironman World Championships in 2017, and it transpires that there are competitions for table tennis for people with Parkinson's. In fact, on the 21st of October 2025 I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, somewhere near Venice in northern Italy, there is the Parkinson's Table Tennis World Championships. So I'm going to be able to, can I just say, to qualify for that, you qualify for that by having Parkinson's. So I've qualified already. So what we do, we're going to go out there for a week, and I'm going to play in the Table Tennis Parkinson's World Championships. So 2 World Championships in 2 different sports. I'll take that. I'll be happy with that. Will I win? Almost certainly not. But will we have a good time doing it? Have some fun doing it? Yeah, absolutely. And will it keep me motivated? Keep driving forward? Absolutely it will. And that's the key driver. Because apathy is one of the 40-plus symptoms of Parkinson's. It's that feeling of, do you know what, CBA, I just can't be bothered. And for me, the way I can drive myself is by setting myself objectives, something I can go for, however achievable with a World Championship table tennis. All I have to do is turn up, and I've played in the World Championships, all the way through to doing Ironman Wales, which is as tough as it gets. But I'm going to keep driving forward. And what I'm encouraging you to do is not to use me as a role model, because our journeys are completely different, but have a think about the things that are challenging you from a work perspective, from a personal perspective, from a medical perspective, sporting perspective, and just think, I'm going to spot that opportunity, I'm going to give it a try. Something else that I'm doing as a result of having Parkinson's, blogging. You wouldn't believe it. So I do a blog occasionally on LinkedIn, on an Instagram. So by the way, I'm hoping that I move up from 132 followers to maybe 133, 134 as a result of this today's. I mean, I think I can actually name my 132 followers. So we've got Damien, we've got Rosie, the 3 children have got no choice but to follow me. And I do blogging. So what has Parkinson's ever done for me? Those of you of my sort of age will go, yeah, I get that reference. And I regularly expose myself emotionally to what I'm doing. It's an interesting topic that I don't know whether you saw on the news. A chap called Morten Harket from AHA yesterday announced that he's got Parkinson's. He's had Parkinson's, I think, for many, many years and has kept it to himself. From my perspective, I was diagnosed. We gave the kids a bit of a chance to absorb what was happening, and then I came out. Because we're all different, but to me, I'd rather share it. I mean, let's face it, you can hardly hide it after a while. That's my favourite symptom, by the way. My favourite symptom is my tremor. Call it Michael. Thank you. I'm an author, so I will have banged on about this to many people for many years. As I went through my Ironman journey, I always said I'm going to write a book. What my book was before the 23rd of August 2023 was a diary. So I raced in Wales, and I raced in Switzerland, and I raced in Lanzarote. Now it's become completely different because it's a story of tackling that adversity. Again, completely different book. Keeps my mind occupied, keeps me driving forward, gets rid of that CBA apathy. Motivational speaking. What you can hear in my voice is partly nerves and partly Parkinson's. And do you know what? I'm not embarrassed about either of them. And hopefully this is giving you a few snippets of inspiration. And hopefully it's waking you up from your rough night last night and giving you a bit of liveliness. We'll watch out for that. So if it wasn't for Parkinson's, I wouldn't be doing all of these things. So do I wish I didn't have Parkinson's? Yeah, of course I do. But I do. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no cure at this stage for it. So I'm going to fight it and tackle each bit of it I can, symptom by symptom, opportunity by opportunity. So what we do, it's interesting that yesterday there was a lot of talk about roadmaps. Roadmap, 5, 6, 7, 8 years roadmap. And there was a lot of talk, a number of you used the disclaimer, this roadmap may change. We don't have a roadmap. It's 2025. Back end of this year, we'll start thinking about what's next year. Because actually, there's no point in me thinking, and both of us thinking, what am I going to be like in 5 years' time? Because we've no idea. There may be a cure, there may not be a cure. I might be just like I am now, a bit of a tremor, a bit of stiffness, not too bad. I could be loads worse. There's no point in worrying about it. There's no point in setting plans for that. We live for today, and we'll worry about that, anything that happens after that later. So my jigsaw is there, and it's growing, because there's a 5th grandchild on the way. And I get my role is to be the best I can be today. So, from your perspective, look at that timing. From your perspective, from a sporting perspective, what I encourage you to do, take up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Have a chance, go follow Vanessa on Instagram. Take it up, have a look at that. Talk to Damien. Damien is a bit of an expert on that as well. Do a parkrun, do a triathlon, do an Ironman. Come and talk to me if you want to do an Ironman at some stage. Anybody, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Do weights, do yoga, do table tennis. Irrespective of what your health conditions is, keep driving forward from a physical perspective, because I always will. Never, ever give up. From today's perspective, make that connection. Recover, have an extra coffee. Actually, there's no coffee till 11:05, are they? Some people might be struggling, but make that connection. Have that conversation. Challenge the status quo. Draw your own jigsaw and keep driving forward. So what I'd like to leave you with is that thought. As some of you recover from a hangover, there's nobody asleep here, which is really pleasing for me. Maybe, I think, Prasanth, you're on next. It's your challenge to keep them awake. Keep moving forward and never, ever give up. Thank you very much. Thank you. And again, as I said yesterday after Vanessa's session, for those of you presenting today, that's how you do timing. Does anybody have any questions? As I said, my favourite, if you probably weren't going to ask what my favourite symptom is, it's the tremor. It doesn't bother me. You know, we go out with friends. Do I care if somebody's looking at my hand trembling? No, I don't really bother about it. Least favourite symptom is probably the whole taste thing. As we look back, it's probably been 5, 6, 7 years. I've had no sense of smell. And actually, with baby grandchildren, that's actually quite useful. But no sense of smell and taste. One of the things that I thought, because I do like a World Championships, it had crossed my mind that I could enter hot chili eating competitions or hot curry eating competitions. The problem is I still do have sensations lower down my digestive system. So I suspect that won't work. I can eat chilies like nobody's business, but I suspect that might cause issues. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, so the question is, have I considered medical implants? So it's something which I will have a look at in the future. There are a number of interesting advances. There is something called DBS, which is deep brain stimulation, where they put basically a pacemaker in your brain which drives forward the production of dopamine. And those are getting better. The great thing about having Parkinson's today is that with AI and a number of other technical advances, things are getting better and better. So deep brain stimulation, I think, has been going for 5 or 10 years, and they're learning from it. They're now putting in smart DBS, smart deep brain stimulation, which isn't just a raw pumping out as much dopamine as possible, but it's taking on whatever you're doing at the time and reacting to do that. So have I considered it? No, not yet, because I'm still resisting going on drugs, on the medication. That day is very quickly coming up when I'm just going to have to say, take it, Phil. It's an acceptance thing. You're going to have to do that. There are some incredible technology advances. There's something called Beach Band. Have a look on YouTube. It's something called Beach Band. There's a guy called Mike Beach, I think his name is Beach, who has got Parkinson's, and from a voice perspective, he was losing the ability to speak. And one day, he just started doing this. I forgot my microphone was there. He started just tapping himself. Actually, I will for effect. Tapping himself, and realised that if he was tapping himself, he improved the way he was speaking. So he played around with it, and he's created something called a beach band, which you put on the other side from your affected side, and it sends pulses through your body. Have a look on YouTube at Beach Band. You will be astonished, because there is a guy who, I won't do the impersonation because it's too cruel, but who cannot speak when his beach band is turned off, and then he turns it on, and he's talking like me. Poor thing, but he's talking like me. It is astonishing. So that's and this guy just stumbled across it. He's selling them for £30. And there are, every day there are new technology advances. So have I considered them yet? Not yet. I'll move on to the drugs probably in the next couple of months, onto the medication in the next couple of months, and we'll see how that goes. And then at some stage I will put myself forward for that deep brain stimulation. But it's really exciting that wherever I am today, in 3 years' time, technology will have moved forward massively, and I feel really positive about that. Any other questions? If you've got any questions at any stage about any of the questions about Ironman or about Parkinson's, I'll be here bullying people into sticking to time for the rest of today. So more than happy to take any questions. And if you want to increase my Instagram following from 132 to 133, it's 226 Philippe. And thank you very much for your time.
Folks, most of you will know Philippe is actually, although inspirational, he's actually the host as well. So rather than host and say thank you, you say thank you to yourself.
I'll say thank you
to yourself.
Thank you.
I'll help. Thanks very much,
Yeah,
Philippe.
it's a pleasure.
That's
it's
brilliant.
An absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.